war, pandemic, climate crisis, if I look at the world today, it can feel really overwhelming. It can feel exhausting. And I don't know about you, I've been feeling, what in the world is going on? So in this video, I want to share with you 4 tips to take care of our mental well-being in tough times. Tip number 1, limit your exposure to bad news. And I know this can be really hard, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be knowing what's going on in the world whatsoever. What I'm saying is that if it affects us negatively, if it starts to affect our mental well-being negatively, it's time for us to limit our exposure to the news. And here's why. When our brains perceive a threat, chemical reaction that happens doesn't distinguish between a real threat and a perceived threat. So let's say you are going hiking in the jungle. And I live in Thailand and there are many beautiful jungles here. And guess what? There are also wild elephants. And it happened twice to me that I was attacked or almost attacked by a wild elephant. And it wasn't until the rangers that were with me helped me out. Now, I was stressed in that moment. I was afraid and I was running away, trying to figure out what to do. So I was getting into action. My brain was triggering all the survival mechanisms there were because there was a male wild elephant that was coming towards us. Now, when I read the news and I see news about the war, news about the pandemic, news about a climate crisis, the same chemical reactions get triggered in my brain as if there's a big wild male elephant about to attack me. And the problem with constantly being updated by the news, which are usually the bad news, that's when we feel stressed. And our brains were never made for so much stress that we receive constantly. Notice in my story with the elephant, there was some action that happened afterwards. There was a release of all the stress from my body because I was running away, I was moving, I was calling for help. And I survived, by the way, which you can tell by me recording this video. I survived. When we read the news, there is no running away. Usually we don't say, oh, I just read bad news, let me hit the gym or let me go running, let me play football. We don't say that, right? So the stress levels are still high in our system and they don't get released. So that's why it's important for us to limit our exposure to bad news, because constant levels of stress start to affect not just our physical health, but also our mental health. So here's what I do in my life, and it's been working really well. I limit the exposure to news by just dedicating a certain time of the day to the news, where I just read what's happening in the world. I get usually very upset or sad, usually both, and that's it. I don't need, and you don't need, hour by hour updates about a war. You don't need hour by hour or case by case updates about a pandemic. You don't need day-by-day updates about the climate crisis. Even once a day is probably already enough. I'm not saying don't watch the news. Please be informed. Just limit your exposure if you feel like it's affecting your mental well-being or your physical well-being in a negative way. Tip number 2, practice being in the here and now. As great of the invention of that social media is, it actually takes us away from the present, which is here and now. It takes us away to somebody having a great dessert. It gets away to somebody celebrating a great party. It gets us away to somebody traveling to great places while we're somewhere in a dark dungeon and feeling very sad and depressed about our own lives. It also takes us maybe straight into a battlefield or straight into a hospital that doesn't have any beds anymore for pandemic patients. And this can feel very depressing. Whereas in the here and now, there might be more beautiful things that you can benefit from that you don't notice if you are not present. The way to get into the here and now is by consciously breathing. I know this sounds insane. What do you mean consciously breathing? I'm breathing already. Great, keep on breathing. What I'm talking about is getting into the present through your breath, because the anchor to the present is our breath. And here's a simple way on how you can get into the present with your conscious breathing. You take your hand and you breathe in for 3 seconds and out for 3 seconds 5 times. And you can just trace your fingers. Every time you go up a finger, you breathe in. And then you breathe out. And you breathe in. And you breathe out. You do this 5 times, all the way to the end, and you will notice that you feel more grounded. You feel more present. You have arrived in the here and now. So when you notice that being exposed to bad news or talking about topics that are not healthy for your mental well-being, get into the present, get into the here and now. Give yourself a break. Tip number 3, talk to trusted people in your life. And that can be parents, friends, advisor, mentor, a coach, somebody that you truly trust, where you can be yourself, where you don't have to perform. Talking helps your brain process what's happening, because when you put words to something, it makes things more tangible. So when you feel a sense that you can't really describe, try to put it into words. I am feeling a sense of being overwhelmed. I am sensing fear. I am sensing frustration. I feel angry. Putting into words what you're feeling helps your brain process it, and you suddenly can feel much more powerful about what's happening to you or around you. Talk about what you're feeling with the friend. The important thing is that this has to be a non-judgmental, safe space for you. Because the moment it's not non-judgmental, it's a judgmental space, or it doesn't feel safe for you to really share from your heart, that's the moment when you start making things up, where you become wobbly in your communication, and it doesn't really help your brain, because it's actually a source of stress. Don't apologize for your feelings. They are just feelings. They are emotions. Emotions is energy in motion. So verbalize it. Put it into words. That helps your brain to know what it's dealing with, and from there, that's where you can start moving into action or finding a new perspective on how things are for you. Before I go to the tip number 4, I want to give you the image of an oxygen mask in a plane. When you get on a plane and you fly somewhere, they always do these safety announcements. And what's interesting is that they always say, put on the oxygen mask first on you before you put it on to your child or somebody around you. So you want to look after yourself first in case there's an emergency on the airplane before you start helping others. Tip number 4 is that you help others from a place of strength. The first 3 tips, they were all about taking care of your own mental well-being. And for many of us, it's very tempting to just jump into action and say, like, we have to help, we have to do this, while we're ourselves not yet fully okay, while we ourselves are feeling tired. And there's nothing worse than trying to help others while we ourselves still need help. So get well first, so that you can serve others from a place of strength. There are a billion different ways how you can help in this time, and they will require for you to be in a mental state where you feel strong, where you feel calm, where you have talked through what you are going through, so that you can help others from a place of strength. In my company, we're going to open up our coaching program for those that are affected by the war. We're going to do this for free and offer our time for this. This is one way that we want to help. The other way is recording this video and sharing simple tools that can have a big impact for our mental well-being. And in your world, there may be many other ways that you can help, and I invite you to look for those. I also invite you to look after yourself and after your mental well-being in these tough times. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, if you've been feeling frustrated, upset, it's normal. We are going through a lot. You are going through a lot. And if you look back 2 years from now, you're not the same person you used to be. Before the pandemic started, before all these other things, the crises in life started, you're not the same. And it's okay. Something new wants to happen, something new wants to emerge. For you to find your way to serve in this world, limit your exposure to bad news, talk about it to other friends, stay in the here and now, stay in the present, and then start helping and serving others. It is my dream and my vision that in these times of crisis, we rise to the challenge and show up as the best human beings that we can be. Supportive, loving, encouraging, empowering, joyful, grateful. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we all showed up like that? Call me idealistic. I believe it all starts with us taking care of ourselves so that we can serve others from a place of strength and ultimately have a bigger impact. Be well, stay safe, and I would love to hear from you how this is playing out in your life and how you choose to help others and how you choose to look after your own mental well-being in these times. Take care. Bye-bye.